Thank you, everyone. Good morning and good afternoon. And welcome to our webinar on evaluating on organization's readiness for MedTech AI transformation. As I said, my name is Ruban Kanapathippillai. I'm going to be your host for this today's session. I am coming from Silicon Valley, California, and we are excited to announce an innovative partnership in MedTech between two leading forces, SenzMate AIoT Lab from Sri Lanka and InnoLab from India. This dynamic alliance is set to bring cutting-edge AI IoT technology to the MedTech industry. Let's meet the key players behind this exciting partnership. We have Miller from SenzMate, and they are renowned for their cutting-edge AI solutions, and Limton from InnoLab, the experts in secure cloud platform for MedTech sector. Let's get into it. First, let's hear from Miller about SenzMate's approach to MedTech. Miller, can you go and share your vision? I know I've been part of you. I've been talking to you guys for the last 10 years, and you have been making a lot of progress on this area. So can you go and elaborate on that?
Sure. Thank you, Ruben. Hello, everyone. Greetings from Sri Lanka. Great pleasure to meet you all. So I'm Miller Alexander Rajendran, co-founder and CW of SenzMate AIoT Intelligence. So our ultimate focus is bringing AI and IoT sector and the complete spectrum into the medical sector and making efficiency, especially on the operational level, improving patients' outcome and driving innovations which can give a competitive edge for medical tech companies and medical infrastructures. So love to speak more about the sector and what we're doing going forward.
And thanks, Miller, for a quick introduction on that. We're trying to keep it brief, that way we get enough message out. So let me introduce Limton. So Limton, can you elaborate on how you are going about addressing this MedTech area?
Hey, thanks, Ruben and Miller. Myself, Limton Xavier, co-founder and chief architect at Miller Labs. We are specialized in cloud architecture and ensure safe and compliance in AI MedTech integrations. Our expertise lies in the creating robust and cloud platform for AI MedTech industry and ensuring the both security and scalability.
Thanks, Limton, for that in a brief introduction. As we said, there is a partnership which we have formed between SenzMate AIoT Lab, InnoLab, for us to do some POC, early analysis. We'll talk about that as we go through that. Being in Silicon Valley, I am here and seeing so many MedTech or the healthcare companies coming out and solving so many of these medical healthcare issues. And I'm so excited to talk to these two guys because the approach they are having with AI, as well as the overall solution behind it, it matches, it is matches what we are doing in Silicon Valley. So that's where this interest is, I wanted to introduce all of you to this. So first, let's start by exploring why do we need to do AI transformation and in today's healthcare landscape, and what factors might push a medical organization to consider AI into their workflow?
Sure. Yes, Ruben. So we see there are majorly two segments which is pushing forward infusing AI or digitalization, especially into the medical ecosystem. Necessity is mother of all invention, as you know. So there's a big necessity to involve AI, and there's a huge opportunity also in this particular time period. So let me explain briefly. So if you take necessity as a state, so there are 50 doctors for 100,000 elderly care patient requirements. So that's a huge gap. So there is a huge shortage in terms of medical professionals and in terms of the operation and efficiency. And it's much worse if you take the developing nations like India, Sri Lanka, South Asia, Southeast Asia, African continent. So there's an amazing need for improving the available resources and delegating that to a larger audience around the world. So second, and we come across a pandemic situation where the entire world was stuck for 2 years, and that opened up huge number of loopholes where there's a necessity for digitalization and taking care from everywhere, that kind of a ecosystem. So the second area we see there's a huge requirement for medical infusion, and that's play a major role, will be the opportunity that we have. So we are in an era where we having access for data in the entire human history, this is the best time we can assure it. And the generation of people who are capable of handling data. So this is a new generation of entire taking like 2-3 generation of people who all know how to access data, how to use technology and digitalization. So that's where this particular AI boom came in this particular 2-3 years period, and everyone talking about whether every industry going to be replaced. So the amount of data available and the opportunity where people can access technology. So this is a perfect marriage where any organization, any industry can consider digital infusion, and especially industries like medical, which must need to involve something that is the global need. So necessity and opportunity play a major role in terms of infusing AI going forward.
Thanks, Miller. That's a great example of it. For example, I am living in Silicon Valley. I go to a doctor here. Nowadays, prior to the latest technology and all that, what happens is we see doctors, they come with a scribe in the behind, they type it in, they look at all this information, and they remind the doctor there are cases what we have, the patient has talked to them about. By adding this AI technology, just to listen to the patient-doctor conversation and able to identify if any information is missed, and then process it rather than coming back for another appointment or actually missing some key information is important. So this is the AI is actually being involved already, and how do we make it democratized? So before embarking on an AI journey, it is crucial for access the organization's readiness for such transformation in this evaluation helps. So to smooth out these kind of transformation, as well as being cost effective, could you share your thoughts on the areas to consider when evaluating an organization's AI readiness?
Yeah. So before coming into the AI innovation and the need of AI, so the last few years, AI is actually it's been tracked. It's very huge, and the hype of this AI is too much. So what we are seeing here is that before getting into AI, we need to define the proper strategy. This is very important. So where we are going, what is the place we are going to invest much? So that the strategy is very important, because being talking about AI for last 3 years and it's going to be for next few years. So we need to define a strategy before we getting into AI, for any of the companies, whether it is very much mandatory and what is the strategy we're going to take it.
Actually, I think you made a great point. But what my view I am seeing on that is, it is going to be a next 10, 15, 20 year of a journey. But you are right, next 2-3 years are going to be critical to get on that part. Yeah.
Yeah. So the next point which we can really stress upon is very, very important point, which is the data readiness. So the AI runs in data. So as everyone is aware of it, without data, AI cannot run smoothly. So a lot of learnings comes from data. So we should make sure that the data is ready before we get into the AI, any kind of approach. Okay, so especially when you talk about MedTech, AI is the biggest driven when come to AI as a whole. The second is technology infrastructure. So we have the data, we have the strategy ready. Then the next is technology. So what technology you are going to be in? What are the infrastructure you have? You have everything ready, but your infrastructure is not capable of running any kind of AI learning. So that's becoming a biggest question. So are we ready with the infrastructure? That's the second biggest challenge. We have to keep it ready for any company to get it. The third or the other one is skills. So talking about AI for last few years, you see next few years, you see a lot of AI engineers will be, every third engineer will be the AI engineer in next few years. So getting the right skill set people, it's also very, very important to achieve what we're trying to get from AI. And use case identification. When we define the strategy, we also have to be parallelly define the use case. What use case you're going to achieve? So that is the one. And the great thing is the next one is very, very important, which is ethics and the risk management. Talking about AI, a lot of people are trying to avoid getting the data to AI. So this is because the AI is becoming the biggest data consumer So we have to be very careful how we are going to secure the data when you give the data to AI. So that's we have to define a proper way. There are a lot of ways we have, so we can able to create a proper methodology, how we can able to avoid the risk on that, and the performance. So the performance is one of the key factor, because keeping everything in pace, so performance without output, the AI is going to be nothing. So we want to make sure that the performance also very important. So with all this strategy, a company can be ready for AI. So these are the few points we have to capture when any company wants to take it to the AI to the next level.
Yeah, and those are great points. I mean, I could vouch for many of these part of it. As you said, all of these healthcare organizations, they have a lot of data, but they don't know how to get to that, get and use that one. And then in addition, you need to add technology, because if you look at NVIDIA stock going through roof because their GPU, which is needed for in this framework. But do you need those technologies? So that is where I think, understanding the importance of this infrastructure, but on the other hand, making sure these, we have readiness as well as we have the right infrastructure, which need to be bought, as well as, having that skill and talent. So we'll talk about that in coming points. But as the medical options expands, organizations want to provide better care. The challenges, or I put it as opportunities to provide us to the help organization embark on this journey with limited resources they have. That's where the automation and AI can help tremendously. So both Limton and Miller, I mean, can you guys talk about the steps we will have to take for AI transformation? And Miller, why don't you start on that?
Sure, Ruban. I think so. First of all, a medical industry itself a little different ecosystem compared to any other industry, especially if you take manufacturing or in a consumer environment or even in agriculture. The consumer decide what they want and their comfort zone, make sure the product designing and so on. Medical sector is one area where even the consumer don't even bargain. So it's everything is defined, and the adaptation not coming from the consumer point of it, the adaptation must come from the professionals who are in the service sector. So medical professionals must adapt, and they will decide whether my organization, my infrastructure need an AI transformation or I am efficient enough at the moment. So AI can give efficiency and competitive edge and various other important diagnosis and therapeutic, both sector, it's improve the efficiency and productivity of medical professionals. Many people, they have many concerns, especially whether AI can replace professionals. In my terms, it's almost impossible in the medical environment. It's basically have a huge gap. As I said, like 100,000 elderly care patients to 50 doctors. And majority of the time, doctors spend more time on documentation and preparation and guiding on machineries, learning all this environment. So spending time with patients and giving treatments is getting lower and lower. So technology can delegate. That's what. So here we are sitting. Imagine the previous time, just one call, two people communicating. Here we have 50, 60 people communicating on the same time, and we sharing information, we are broadcasting information from different parts of the world. So this is the opportunity technology can bring to medical operations.
Actually, what I think you're getting at there was, there are so much mundane, repeated tasks in these industries where It can be automated, and those can be removed when you can't find labor, or you want to improve the post. Yeah. So.
Exactly. So the main area where a company can or organization think about MedTech inclusion in their organization, it's completely on you. Whether you want to improve your efficiency, whether you want to compete on this sector, whether there's an inefficiency you figure out. So those are the areas we are thinking about. And one of the major mistakes many companies as a struggle or the problem they see, it's very expensive. So that's in many terms, that's expense and cost is not the only way forward. I will give an example of one of our project we work with. So, General Electric's type of large organization, they have multi-million-dollar machineries like ECG machines to MRI and CAT scanners and huge machines. those are connected to internet. So now new machines are connected to internet. Like if there's a patient on connected with ECG machines, and the doctors get immediate alerts, the reports will be automatically generated. You are not dependent to stay there and looking at the dashboard throughout the time period. But legacy machine, it still works, but there is not internet connected. For that purpose, do you want to spend that $1 million and purchase a new machine instead of your working machine? That's the question mark. So you don't want to move into a new machine which is $1 million worth. You can have a hybrid. The technology can be flexible. So the request was, there's a small AI powered, NVIDIA powered camera, a computer vision camera, which is looking into the dashboard 24/7, and which understand the dials, colors, numbers, graph, and you can put a thresholds, so the peaking parameters, and exactly what's the experience the new connected machine can give, alerting the doctors on time, giving an indication for critical conditions, generating reports. Exactly the same scenario can be replicated, but for a very, very fraction of the price point. So cost is not always the barrier to move into the digital technology, and there is no one particular way you can get into. And you might have dumps of millions of petabytes of data stored in archives. So that's the opportunity. That's what doctors do for a very long time. They go through the symptoms for diagnosis and therapeutic. They learn from the mistakes. They learn from the results and so on, and they apply that for a new patient or new era. So that's what AI can do with the same kind of a mindset. It has the opportunity to explore multiple pathways, and if and for loops, and they can do a multiple things simultaneously, where 1,000 doctors can sit and brainstorm and think one AI platform can do. So there are plenty of benefits and opportunities. Yes, there are risks that we can discuss in this call going forward. But I see this is a time where we think about AI for every organization.
No, I think it's very interesting the way you articulated that part of it. So one of the area being in Silicon Valley, people keep asking, we are spending so much money. Actually, if you looked at it, there were 10 times more money is invested or for buying this infrastructure hardware from NVIDIA, Intel, AMD, and all other people. Then people ask, only the output is 10% of that able to people can build applications and harvest the value. So what is the killer app which is going to be able to pay for all these AI infrastructure? Looking around with all the things we are talking about is, in my opinion, the first killer app could be this MedTech or healthcare area, where the generative AI can use that information which they have it within the enterprises and to optimize their flows and all that. So this is going to be a great area to look at it. So Limton, in that part of it, the digitization and compliance, because the healthcare has a very sensitive about patients to doctor communications as well as the patients in the private information. But on the other hand, the digitization is important for all these to have, to come out. So how do you balance between the digitization and compliances of it?
Yeah. So as Miller mentioned, so it is not mandatory for getting a very huge infrastructure or very, very expensive hardware for immediate to start with AI. So AI, it's a journey, so we start with very small and we just keep improving, and because we cannot able to get the 100% of learning in the first stage. So we have to, crawl, walk, and run. So that is how AI is, because AI it's a kind of an artificial intelligence which is equivalent to the human brain we are trying to compare. So it needs to be trained in such a way that when we have to be, start with small and just we go to the next level. So investing huge in the day one, that we need to be rethink again. Are we really want to do it? So what we prefer, especially on the digitalization, so we want to make sure that we provide, in your labs, we try to give some kind of options where we can able to support with infrastructure connections what we have in the market. So we start with the basics, especially for the data infrastructure. And we will try to use their existing EHR. So most of the healthcare companies and medtech industries already have their electronic health records. So we try to utilize that. So we have to convert all this data to the EHR. So mostly all the EHRs have been converted. And the second biggest thing is the connected devices, wearable devices, your Bluetooth-enabled devices, IoT-enabled devices. There are a lot of connected devices where we keep generating data from the multiple.
I know, Lyndon, when we started talking about MedTech with you, and you had many of these projects, the digitization part of it, and making sure those are connected to the all electronic health record system and the format and all that. That is another journey, for your customers.
Yeah, so that is the journey. So as you're aware of it, so we have multiple IoT and connected devices. We collect the data, and we can able to try to learn from each other from the devices, and we can able to come up with a proper report. So that is one of the digitalizations we are seeing in the current industry. So moving forward, these data can be used for the massive output to fed into AI. So the other one is telemedicine. So as we see that recently, right, a lot of telemedicine has actually been adopted in a lot of places. We see a lot of video consulting is happening post-pandemic. I think this is one of the biggest boom because people avoid to go to physical doctor visits, so they started going for video consulting, and that has been use case now. So a lot of hospitals, a lot of medtech industry has been converted to a telemedicine platform, and it's actually emerging. And the integration is one of the very key factor here, because we have to learn from each other. So the IoT device, you have to learn from the other IoT device. Take an example of glucose meter as we talk to some other devices like ECG or something like that. So they can able to learn from each other. So that is how the MedTech is actually emerging, and that's the path towards the digitalizations. And actually we are seeing that. And coming to the compliances, so is compliance one of the very key factor, and also actually it looks very unclear, especially when you talk about medtech industry. But there are some we have follow few of the regulations and compliances like GDPR, CBPA, HIPAA, and DPDPA. So all these are actually aligned to get the proper data privacy, so that we can able to adhere all these things, so we are good to go. Okay, and security. So if you're defining a proper way of infrastructure and securing the data, I think we also can able to eliminate those security part as well. And there are a lot of other ways to we can able to do the data. Especially there are a lot of the places available for de-identification data. Maybe we can see it in the next discussions what we can do. If you have any questions on the de-identifications, we can go. And ethical AI use cases. This is the other way in terms of compliances. So how you are using this data, how effectively you're using this data, because now you have all the data. So are we using it in the right way? So we have to be, as a owner of the data, we have to be more clear and how we are using the data. So if we follow these few of the compliance practice, we are good to go to use the data in a proper way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a very good example of overall. Again, we are giving this information at a little higher level, but it is important to understand what are the implications or what are the regulations comes with it. Thank you for elaborating on that. But once you go onto that, there is some process you can follow that makes it easier for an organization to get into AI transformation. Could you elaborate a little bit on that? Like, what are the automation process or some of those, how it collaborates with our cloud versus edge and all of the different areas?
Yeah, so especially data process automation is actually very key. So as Miller mentioned in few places that we, without process automation, it's very hard to run AI. So there are a lot of open sources are available in the current industry where we use it for our cloud AI automation, where we can able to utilize that when there is the data comes in, the automatic learning starts. I think learning is one of the very key, especially when you talk about the AI. So it runs for 12 hours, 24 hours, sometimes it's 24/7 it runs. So what we do is that we automate the end-to-end process. It starts from the data collection automatically happens, and then there will be a pipeline which runs in the parallel so that it connects to multiple sectors. Either it can be a learning, or it can be a deployment, or it can be a production. So end-to-end, we can create an automation with multiple open sources available in the market. And also So when you talk about AI, so the monitoring is also very much important, because AI, it's a heavy intensive applications, and it uses heavy infra. So we ought to monitor the complete the cloud, or it can be an infra, especially cloud is nothing but an infra in the back end. So we have to monitor them on maintenance. So we also run a secure monitoring board, which can able to automate each and every component. So we can see the health of each and every component. So if the entire process can be automated. So we use multiple open sources for this data process automation.
So, and we have a question also in terms of the data privacy and protection and security risk and so on. If we honestly speaking, medical sector is depend on data. So that data need to be shared with multiple organizations or multiple doctors to learn from it, from the diagnosis to symptoms to therapeutic activities. But where the security part comes when it's aligned with the patient's personal demography and the details. So if we can differentiate those parts, that's what I think Limton also mentioned a perfect word, that de-identification. Globally, from your Apple Watches to Fitbits to all these medical ecosystem learn from data, and they try to implement a technology into it. So data, symptoms, observations, results need to be learned. Period. There's no other option in terms of adapting AI or any technology into a medical ecosystem, and we are growing through that, extending our lifespan. But when you can differentiate and isolate the identification of that belonging of that data, that's where it's all about. So that's what we call de-identification. There are multiple methods in AI and machine learning and IoT we use at the moment in terms of de-identification. For an example, your personal data, everything processed locally. Whatever we are sharing to a network or sharing with another ecosystem, which is stream only the information, not your identified information. So one of the examples, one of our previous webinar speaker, also keynote speaker. So their product, what we working on. So it's physiotherapy. It's everything happens on your mobile. The entire processing happens on the mobile. The information the doctors see through cloud or through internet, which is completely de-identified skeleton body of yours. So no one knows who doing these activities and exercises. What's the posture? Who is this data person belong to? Data is belong to. That's the de-identification we are talking about, and that's where it's all about at the moment. So all the EPA to GDPR, it's dependent on that.
Yeah, so I think there is a very good question from Nimal about because there's a cost associated with that, and that's why earlier I mentioned that's why NVIDIA stock is shooting through the roof, because everybody has to buy this infrastructure and everybody has to use this one. So how do you make sure this is not, a healthcare organization does not have to put out so much money? I think that is where we are talking about enterprise level AI, which is going to be limited but targeted to this field. And so that is going to improve the cost part of it. The second one is that is where I think we are also talking about how do you prepare your organization for it, and how do you make sure the cost doesn't go through the roof from a compute and all part of it. So that is where you need the expertise, because if you just go and do brute force methodology, the expenses is going to be quite a bit. But if you can target and optimize and look at the data and glean the data before you get into the bigger scale, very good. Limton, do you have anything to add to that question about cost part of it?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think that's where we are trying to address. The InnoLabs is trying to address that. So when you talk about the cost perspective, especially the medtech industry, the next few years, it's going to be a research and development. No one is going to take any decision for next 3 years. If someone is telling you, if AI is telling that, hey, you have a X disease, so no one is going to take a medication from the day 2. So they will do multiple levels of, second opinion, a lot of things. So from the research, medtech industry is going to be the next 3 years going to research. So we have to be, InnoLabs support the team very consciously, whether what kind of use cases is going to be and what kind of cost is going to be associated with it. So whether do you really need very expensive NVIDIA cards? Basically, that is the brain of AI if you see a lot of places. So NVIDIAs are multiple ranges, right? So starts from X to Y. So we have to be define what kind of infrastructure is really needs, and we have been partnered with a lot of infrastructure companies where they are giving their the hardware to get their. First, we are just trying to research, right? So we are trying a proof of concept. Then we can take a call. Are we good to go to the next level? So by this kind of an assessment, we can really cut down the cost, directly jumping to something and spending huge money. And we just after 5 months or 6 months, we can come up in a report saying that, hey, this is not a right way to go on. So we have to step back again. So this way we support. So we have to be very, very, very carefully. We define what kind of research we are going to do, start with, and what kind of hardware we're going to pick and choose. So we do the brainstorming before getting into anything. So
Yeah.
that's okay.
Thank you. I mean, because I've been in this Silicon Valley with AI transformation coming through, and my day job nowadays is try to define AI infrastructure at the edge as well as at the enterprise. I'm seeing what you described beautifully, because you need to make sure you understand what kind of data you have and what kind of system you need. Like, you have NVIDIA GPUs and all that. Then you have Intel and AMD coming up with it. There are so many accelerators coming in. Those are in the infrastructure section of it. So where we could come and help our customers or our partners is to understand what everybody is looking at it, and then make sure what is the right investment from the infrastructure point of view. But before even that, how do you gather your data, be efficient? Like, for example, if you're going to do the cloud services, they are very costly if you just, brute force way go and do that. But how do you go about, if you can go prune the data upfront and go from there? So those are the few things which we had to look at it. And if please keep the questions coming. That was a great question, Nimal. And if you ask, go ahead.
I have a small thought on it. So it gives a different perspective. At the same time, might be a little controversy if I talk in that way. So medical sector always invest pouring money into finding medicine in normal chemical-based medicine and inorganic medicines as well. So in that sense, if you consider a same medicine, which is very recently we had these interactions globally. So a medicine which is $8,000 per patient per tablet for cancer patients, so which is actually can be given for $40 in many ecosystems. This has happened around the world. So the medicine, there is no bargain. So there is a huge difference on the price point for different markets and different availabilities. But I believe technology is if you consider technology as a medicine for diagnosis at the same time for treatment perspective, so therapeutic perspective, technology as a medicine in that sense, that will be a global common medicine which will be normalized for the entire world faster than any other medicine found in the market. So still there is the same medicine available for $8,000, and some countries it's $41, but technology will be common. So we use Starlinks for the same price point in Sri Lanka. So we use other technology, Google price workspace for the same price in Sri Lanka, same price what used in USA. So technology it's basically wealth of information. It's common for everyone. Everyone will know about it, and it will be normalized very, very faster than you think. Initially, as Lyndon perfectly mentioned, this is the R&D phase, just like you're finding a new medicine. After that, it will be launched to the public. Then it will be normalized, and the price point will be affordable, and it will be normalized for the entire world. Whoever have access for internet, this telemedicine or medical AI will be available for the same price point. So it's a matter of time and the acceptance of the medical professionals and acceptance of these countries' policies. So that's where it's all about a matter of price point and the cost. It's all about.
Yeah, I mean that is a great example as well as follow through. Limton, if you look at some of these the digital transformation, what are the potential risks? I think you addressed some of them a little bit earlier, but let's dive a little bit deep into it and say what are the risks and how for people to start thinking about it.
Yeah. That's a great one which need to be addressed, because as everyone aware of it, we are playing around with the data, right? So as Miller told, and also we also mentioned that de-identification data, that is very, very important. So any company wants to play around with the kind of data. So we have to be more clear on any kind of cybersecurity threat because we are digitalized. All the data are around. We are completely open. That we have to be very careful, and we have to be aware with all the privacy policies and any kind of technology dependencies. So we have to make it use of it. For example, that if you want to take a backup of everything, take it up, and you have to keep the data safe. Just do it around. Just don't think I have everything. So and also make sure that the quality of, we cannot able to compromise, right? So for example, sometimes there will be a small change needs to be come in, so people need to be take an excuse that okay, no problem, we can do it later. That's the time there will be an attack. So we have to be very careful. We cannot able to compromise any quality any time in the data, because that is our key, especially when you talk about the data security. And we have to develop the trust. As Miller mentioned, most of the data we are in the commonly shared. It's available in the open internet or de-identified data. So there are a lot of post AI, lot of companies are coming up with kind of a solution, a platform where they de-identify the data. They will create a virtual identity to remove your original identity, and they will attach your virtual identity. They can able to circulate the data, so that they can able to use the data without any issues, without any compromising. So these are some of the risks we have to be addressed in the very early stage. So that
I think you hit that right there. But look at it, with COVID, as well as there are some other health issues coming out. Having that information, but it doesn't need to be connected to a particular patient, de-identified and available for researchers around the world, organizations around the world, doctors around the world. They can easily identify. I mean, I remember there was a remote medical surgery was happening in Sri Lanka from the doctors from US, and the information they were able to exchange with all of those part of it. It is tremendous help with all this newer technology. On top of it, like that one, you needed to have a doctors from other countries at the awkward time, but having these assistants created by AI with, we talked about digital twin as well as the other forums, having them available, that is a great way of improving and providing healthcare for everything. Earlier, I talked about within US itself, it's a challenge. Actually, we have good cities, good regions, and all that, but there are remote areas don't have enough doctors, enough facilities, all of those. So how do you manage that? To give them the better access to the medical health and all that. So it started with telehealth, then it went into the next level of having these tools available to them and autonomously them monitoring and able to alert them. So this is where AI can play a big role, in my opinion, also. And as you stated rightfully, the security and the privacy is important, but if you can de-identify the data and get it to the right doctor, and the care becomes quite better. As we go to the last question, we are going to have about 10 minutes of Q&A afterwards. So please stay around, as well as you can put your questions. But so I will start with Limton. Can you give a good one of the success story? I know you have many of them. I have partnered with you. So give one example of a success story of patient care, as well as improving people's livelihood.
Yeah. So what we are doing here is right. So one is very importantly, we are working with a very comprehensive diet plan. So which is very, very important. If you see the diet plan, it's been generated in a lot of places. It has been more specific to some of the issues and diseases attached to it. For example, if you're talking about the digital diet plan, which has been available in there, so the diet plans are mostly connected to talk about some of the glucose meters or CGM, continuous glucose monitoring. These data can able to provide that can able to give you a diet plan which is related to the glucose. So how can it be connected to the other symptoms or the issues which we have in? So what we are doing here is that, right? So we are working with a lot of data, and we have a data. So we are connecting that, and we're bringing up a diet plan where the patients can able to give a proper way, because we have the data from different sectors. We connect those data from glucose meter, ECG, stethoscopes, hemoglobin, lot of data. So combinedly, we can able to create a very comprehensive diet plan, which can be adopted to the person and the patients, which can able to work out. It can be any kind of patients, because the comprehensive diet plan connects to multiple factors. It can be age, it can be your BMI, it can be your glucose, because we are not taking only one data. So this is where the power of data. That is where we're talking about the de-identification, sharing the data. So we can able to create a very competitive and comprehensive diet plan, which can perfectly fit for the person, and it's going to be improvised. So this is one of the very easy and very effective success story which can able to start with. And we are also working with multiple parallelly. Maybe next we can able to share more success stories. Sure. And this is one of the very easy and effective one.
Thank you. Thanks, Limton. So I think we are getting close to the end. So before we wrap up, and this can go for hours, the discussion. Miller, what is your final thought to the audience, how they can collaborate with you guys?
Definitely. I think, Ruben, there's a question also from Vidushan. So I think I can address it. So Vidushan, actually, the first question you're asking about how Gen AI can working in the med industry. So Limton gave a fantastic example. So utilizing data where doctors understand. So that's something we are collaboratively working on, and care plans basically. So there are plenty of parameters. You have medical information, you have diet information, you have their day-to-day observation of patients, and so on. Feed all those information. There are multiple knowledge graph-based information you are taking in. Considering all the parameters, the patient is look fine, but he don't eat much. He has lactose intolerance, and he's a diabetes patient. So prepare a medication and diet plan. A doctor supposed to think a lot in all these parameters. That's where Gen AI comes in. It's think 1,000 times faster, 1,000 connection points in the data sources, pull out everything, just like the doctors putting that out as a report. Gen AI can work out. Actually, we working this.
You're making a good point there, because there are so much data there, and the doctors may go in one path, but a way of putting everything together and able to connect, and then holistically present a solution rather than solving one problem. Like if you have a diabetic, you may have kidney issues, or you have heart issues and all that. How do you connect all of them together, maybe? Yeah,
exactly. And derive something, combine of everything. You can't predict, you can't prefer or describe something like for a lactose intolerant patient, he had diabetics. You can't come up with a normal diabetics recipe, but you can't include any dairy products into it. Yes. So that's the complication. So humans are made for errors, and they make mistakes. So AI think through everything, because it's AI. It never get bored. That's the best beauty of it. So actually, there are plenty of researchers available. And for your second question, just utilize the existing LLM. Don't try to reinvent the wheel if you are thinking about the research side of it. So implement LLM into the data which is available. So that's my last point. Also allowed to mention, like, if you all have data, all medical infrastructure, don't try to protect the data. It's not belong to you. So that's where the world is built out. For thousands of years, there's a knowledge, they scripted into the documents in maybe in scrolls and stuff that we now adapting to Western medicine or the real modern medicine. And it's all about data. We just generation by generation, we migrating that, the symptoms, the learnings, the mistakes they made, and the observation, the treatments, everything is all about data. Yes, for technology, we definitely need data, but we don't need the identification. Whose data it is, that we don't need. But technology, if you want anything, please make the data available publicly to learn. That can save lives. So we are working around technology for life saving. So data need to be public. That's one of our vision. And then only the technology can be efficient and cost effective. So this much as possible, you're protecting it, it's getting more inaccessible and expensive. So
Yeah.
that's
Thanks, Miller. And so, Limton, before we close it, I know you guys have established a partnership as well as the lab you have already set up, both, SenzMate AIoT as well as InnoLabs. So can you just quickly give what kind of work you do there, as well as what kind of things we can expect, how to partner with customers?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great part of Labs. So Labs and SenzMate have tied up now. So we what we are trying to achieve is that, right. So we are trying to address the first part of the AI, which is the research. So it is a continuous evolve. That is what we have this one. Anyone can able to do the research here, and we can come up with an output, kind of a white paper to can assist with your organizations in the MedTech research. We are ready to support in the AI perspective, and we have a better infrastructure, very cost effective, and also we have a very skilled persons, and also we have a pool of team which can able to support you to guide what is very important, what is the strategy we have to build. The AI is actually, it's huge, so we can able to have multiple strategy. If anyone wants to talk about AI, they can talk about n number of things in AI, but we have to be very focused when you talk about AI, especially on MedTech, so that we can able to achieve what we're trying to. So that's what we are trying to hear from everyone. So please reach it to us so we can able to support you in the right way.
Exactly.
Yes.
So to adding to that, then now it's with a combination of InnoLab and SenzMate AIoT Lab. It's a 300 engineers, cutting edge AI tech research facility for MedTech ecosystem. So any organization globally who looking for affordable development from India and Sri Lanka type of cutting edge environment, we have a 300 engineers pool where you can working on something. So and we are open for a pro bono based MVP. If you guys are interested on, we are open for office hours to discuss forward. So we can have a limited size scale pro bono MVP for you if you have a solid project to take it forward.
Yeah, thank you, both of you. I think if you have any questions, we can open up, or I think we have addressed most of the questions already. It was a great session going on. So Nimal looks like, let me see if I can open it and whether it can you speak now?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, this question is probably for Alexander Rajendran more than Limton Xavier. But thank you for the time, and congratulations and good luck with your efforts together. I think my question is that it more and more looks like AI in the latest form is more of an infrastructure play than a software play. So if that's the case, we've had situations like this before, say telecom, wireless, 20 years ago. You are essentially a software company. Now, how do you think it's going to evolve? I mean, do you have to be acquired by a potential customer of yours, or you have to have a partnership with them? Because in one application, when it comes to generative AI, the infrastructure cost, as Ruben explained carefully, is actually prohibitive. There's no way small companies can do that. And not just training, even inferring at times can be expensive. And I don't think that's going to change anytime. I used to think we can get processor cheaper this year when it started back in 2022, but I don't think we are going to do it for the next 3 years. We might get it beyond that. But how do a company like you plan to evolve in that environment? Thank you for your time. Thank you for everything.
Thank you, Nimal, for the fantastic question. Love your question and honesty on that. So definitely, there's a very expensive way, and you own everything. And if you're willing to work and bet your beak, there's also always an alternative way. So let's say generative AI, as you rightly said, if you want a protected ecosystem, your own LLM platform made out of Hugging Face type of existing online and open source frameworks, you're building your own learning model, knowledge base, you are creating a rack with your own data. With all those facilities, it's very expensive to create an ecosystem which is owned by you. But there's always an alternative. If the data can be implemented on top of an existing framework like OpenAI or MedPalm from Google or from Cloud AI or Lextra. So these type of existing frameworks available for $20 a month as an API. So the entire intelligence is already built. You just want to integrate with your data. It comes with pros and cons. So the data will be learned by the platform and it will be shared as a knowledge base for the global. If you want a protected IP, then yes, you have to spend money on. And if you want more security without even going to the cloud, you have to go for an edge environment where, just like what Ruben explained, where you want to implement within your infrastructure premises. So there are layers of cost in terms of implementing. But if you want to explore whether this is working with the exact same experience you get without an IP, without internal data security, you can always reach for the same type of technology for $20. So that's the availability.
Can I ask you one question?
Sure.
I understand your point, but in this case, when it comes to medical related issues, security and privacy is going to be a major. I understand your question about de-identifying data and everything. That might happen, that might not happen. The only problem is that customers are going to say, you guys are making money from their data and they're going to get paid. The same problem Facebook and Google face. So we all understand that data is oxygen and someone has to pay for it. It's not going to be free. But
it is true what Nimal you are talking about, but what I am seeing at this level here is that the enterprises who have this, for example, Kaiser Permanente or some big, United, they have these data and they can utilize to improve the efficiency by doing that without de-identifying. They're not saying this patient has this problem, but overall how this trend is happening and by helping that. But the other one which you talk about, the infrastructure and all that, you're absolutely right. I was in the telco Web 1.0 life when they had to buy a lot of infrastructure. That time the spend was on the infrastructure. What happened in the Web 2.0 when it came is it's all application. How do you use that application to harvest more value to your users? By that you can charge more money. I mean, if you look at it from the second part of it, a lot of these people, yes, they had infrastructure in the back, Facebook, Google, and everyone, but where they made money is by using the data to catering to their customers and improving that. I know there are privacy issues associated with that, but on the other hand, in this area, it is going to be, again, important to understand. It is going to help the humanity. But on the other hand, that is where the enterprise level LLMs and how you close it, how do you make sure your data is secure, that is where these guys can help your organization with it. Because
if I may, just one last question for you, Rajendran. Is it at all possible for you to go to a customer and use your application, but convince the customer to pay for everything else? Is that a business model possible at all? Suppose whatever you are developing, one of the United Healthcare, Kaiser Permanente, or a large hospital system, is it at all possible to go to them and say, you have a unique solution to their AI data, however, to implement it will cost some money, and is it at all possible for a small company with the right application to convince a large hospital, you take the cost, but just pay for the application as Ruben explained? Your application will be on the top of the infrastructure. They pay for the infrastructure. They just pay you for the application. Are we like 5 years from that, or can that happen now?
Exactly, Nimal. So you're perfectly right. So as we mentioned, so if it's like an organization like Kaiser, a large organization, they can accommodate the entire infrastructure development when the product becomes SaaS. That's what I initially mentioned also. So the technology normalized faster than any other medicine, as if you consider as a medicine. It will be normalized if you become a service, not as a product which is owned by your infrastructure. If you want an infrastructure, in-house development, definitely it's cost a lot. But for mid-scale companies, it's unnecessary at the moment to take it forward. They always available as a SaaS. Even so, if you talk about the Gen AI, for example, you build everything, but already a pre-trained model like MedPalm, a subside development of Google Bart, which is available especially for medical treatment, and it's available on a SaaS model, software as a service model, which is a very cheap option compared to building your own LLM. But the data, it's not unique for you. So that's where the rack-based infrastructure comes in. If you need a personalized development, if you consider that that's an investment, then you're supposed to have a return of investment on it. Then it comes to plan. So so you can, if you can add on.
Yeah, so I just, Nimal, I would just want to add one question. So you asked about, so do we have, both we are a software company, so you have any connection with the partnership of the hardware? Yes, we have been connected with a lot of hardware companies. So we precisely pick and choose what customer needs. Okay, so we'll directly not jump into the last version, the latest version, Tesla cards of NVMe, which is very, very expensive. So we make sure that what we need to start with. So that is where our expertise comes in. So we are connected with multiple partners. So where we can able to normalize the cost, especially when you do it in the rack based on your data privacy issues. So we have to be, if you want to deploy it in US, so we can able to talk to the partner, we deploy to that, and we'll get the deployment done, and we will do the research, and we'll come up with the output.
And to add to that, Nimal, one of the things I am looking at it is also helping from US to both of these organizations. For example, there is a tape drive company who has a lot of data. They are, because tape is the cheapest medium to store this data. They already have access to all the medical companies and all that. They are trying to sell those products. What we are talking to them about is exactly adding this intelligence to their tape drive, the front-end API, where they can glean more data out of that. So that is where we are willing to, close out all of these information. So we, rather than going to Kaiser or United Health and trying to do ourselves, which is their quite large organization, we are quite, relatively small. So we are trying to partner with these middle people where we get access to them, and we put this as a product on top of them. And then in a subscription model, we are doing revenue share ideas. We are exploring those kind of things. So you are right. It is very difficult to go and work with them directly, but there are so many middlemen. And that is where I think that's the reason we are bringing the awareness to this forum. And if there are people who are, connected to these big organizations looking for, help, we are there to help and partner with.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Ruban.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So I think this has been an excellent interaction as well as excellent session by Miller and Limton. And again, we want to thank all of you for joining us today. And as I said, SenzMate, AIoT Lab, InnoLabs, both of them are very eager to work with you together and, provide you, as Miller described, we are doing pro bono, MVP development or evaluating your readiness and providing solutions, no, string attached. So thank you. And I want to thank Miller and Limton for their insights. And I'm very excited for your collaboration between SenzMate, AIoT Lab, and InnoLab, and because I'm very, that area is going to blossom, and you are already taking a good step to it. So thank you, everybody, and have a great day.
Thank you, Ruban. Thank you,
everybody. Have a great week. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye.